I want to give you the truth of what our current mayor of London has been doing for the last 5 years that he's been in office. So here you see a picture, and this is our mayor with his big promises back in 2016 when he was elected. And you can see from that headline that he had promised a quote unquote better London. That's what he said. And when he was elected in 2016, he pledged to quote, invest in and protect youth services in London right now, end quote. Invest in and protect youth services in London right now. But he's done the opposite. Instead, he has cut spending, he's closed our youth centers, and he is now creating what we're calling a lost generation. And I want to tell you more about this. So during those 2016 elections for London mayor, more than 40,000 young people signed a petition, and they asked the candidates to pledge to do this. And this is a quote from that survey coming from our younger generation. They asked the candidates to pledge to, quote, invest in and protect youth services in London right now. And that's what the mayor promised to do. That's what the kids asked for. And in the mayor's campaign manifesto, he vowed to, quote, do all in his power to make London better as he was sworn in as the new mayor. And you see more of these pictures coming up here of the headlines in the papers of him promising in his manifesto to change London. And he claimed, quote, that he would make London safer by restoring neighborhood policing, tackling gangs and knife crime. And we all know how that's worked out. The thing is that evidence from young Londoners to the Mayor's Knife Crime Summit in October 2016 showed that among young people, they most wanted these things. And I'm going to quote to you what they told him at his Mayor's Knife Crime Summit back in 2016. They said they wanted, quote, investment in youth services and clubs. They wanted mentoring. They wanted outreach and youth workers. They wanted work programs and workshops, and they wanted mental health support and 24/7 access to advice. This is coming from young people at a summit the mayor had in October of 2016. What did the mayor do? Instead, he has massively cut spending. And don't take my word for it. Here's one of the many, many headlines I'm going to show you today. This one's from The Guardian, and it says it there in black and white. Youth club closures put young people at risk of violence, warn our MPs. And the hard facts are this. Our youth service budgets were cut by 46% between 2012 and 2019. And an even larger cut in funding is being implemented this year. Let's look at some of the numbers, and these are going to shock you. These are 10 of the worst performing boroughs here in London. And look at some of these numbers. It's hard for me to even read these numbers to you. Barking and Dagenham, they've cut £1.5 million on the budget, and I'll leave these up there for a while. That's a 68% drop. Enfield, down £3.1 million cut in budget, an 88% drop in the budget. Hounslow, dropping £600,000. That's a drop in 73% on the budget. Tower Hamlets, where I'm going to be tonight, the mayor cut your budget by £4.7 million. That's a 54% cut in your budget. Look at those numbers. They're shocking those numbers. And it's the absolute opposite of what the mayor pledged to you. But you can't get around the data. The data shows exactly what happens. And instead of doing what he he in fact closed your youth centers. And you can see in this headline here from The Observer, a third of youth clubs in London fear closure by year end. And according to a report, it's called the London's Lost Youth Services. It's a 2019 Assembly report. Since 2011, London has lost at least 100 youth centers. 100 youth centers lost in London since 2011. And the report goes on to detail exactly what's happening. It said the number of youth centers has fallen from 234 in 2011 to 130 last year. That's a net loss of 104 sites. But it gets worse. More than 560 youth workers have lost their jobs in the same time. This, strangely enough, has also coincided with a rise in youth violence. And the report goes on to say, Overall spending on youth services has now been cut by 46% since 2011, with 29 London councils having a cut of a combined £26.3 million. How can my friend Mac in Homerton at Wally Foster be expected to run his incredible community center when our mayor is cutting £26.3 million from the budget? Mac would probably do amazing things with £30,000, but they're cutting £26 million. And the report finishes off by saying that projections of youth service spending suggest more cuts to come. Your current mayor is projecting more and more cuts to our community centers. And you can see here on screen now, this comes from the London councils themselves. And this is a key fact that they are admitting. You can see here in black and white, £4 billion cut from core funding for local services in London between 2010 and 2020. They are admitting they are cutting £4 billion from the core services. This is unacceptable. And you can see again on the screen here, and this comes from Bernardo's, one of the top children's charities here in London. And it warns, and you can see it here, children's services are at a breaking point. A breaking point. And that's what Bernardo's is saying independently of everything that we're seeing. And I just want to finish off with some data from the charity called London Youth, which was released this summer of this year. And it said that 31% of youth club organizations could struggle to operate within 6 months. 31% could struggle to operate within 6 months. They are dying because of what your mayor has done. More than a quarter, 27%, were struggling with running costs, and 47% of them had furloughed staff. And again, another headline, and we see these every single day. ITV News is investigating, reveals grassroots sports are feeling the squeeze of these council cuts. These cuts manifest themselves in so many ways. And here you can see it, the younger generation, more things that they don't have the choice to. And that survey earlier goes on to say that it found that 78% of our youth were engaging, 78% of our communities were engaging with fewer younger people. And the worry is that these younger people will never return to the clubs. 73% of them said that mental health of their young people had been affected. And, this table here pretty much shows it all. Here you can see the net youth service staff cuts from 2011 all the way up to where we are in 2020. And look at what happened while the mayor was there. Look at how he slashed and slashed youth service staff cuts. Look at how it's just gone up from 200 to 300 to 400 to 500. And he just keeps slashing and slashing and slashing our youth service staff. What do we expect to happen when the mayor cuts our budgets, cuts the staff? It's no surprise that we're struggling with what we're struggling today.